Hello, welcome to this week's tutorial. Today we have a relatively, well, a more in-depth class to the things that we have seen a little bit earlier. Today we're gonna, as you probably could tell, based on the class content, we're gonna work on footsteps. Footsteps, as we saw, have like a surprisingly deep amount of like extra things that you can do for them so that they can fit within the characteristics, the desired characteristics of your game. But also in the context of Wwise, they are a really good tool to go into multiple subsections of tools that we utilize inside of Wwise for multiple things, but like they are a good example for them. Okay, so today we're going to work on footsteps. We are going to do put footstep sounds, variation of footstep sounds. We're going to talk about the variation between them, how to create the space randomization, and also how to create surface configurations and utilize switch groups in Wwise. All of that is going to be part of this video. So yeah. First of all, let's check where we were with our work and what we had done up to this point. So for Unreal, we had left the project in a relatively interesting position. As I mentioned at the end of the previous tutorial, first of all, I increased the area of the work so that we have a little bit more space. This is a lot more area than the one that we're going to need, but that was the area that increased. For these... well, if you wanted to do something similar to this, you can go here on the top selection space and go into your landscaping tool. The landscaping tool, if your player is new, you can select like a huge specific terrain, and then you can select what sizing, location, scale, and things are doing. In this case, the only difference that I did is that I added the prototype grid 2, which is the same material of the floor that we already had, just to increase the area a little bit. You can also, if you wanted to, just like change or add in the selection of that thing. So like, for example, if I add this quadrant, I could do something to this selection. But right now we're just going to leave it as is. Let's look at where we had left it. So in the previous class, we had played around with introducing sound elements and attenuation configurations to this cube. So if we walk closer to it, you can see that we have changes in the position that, depending on what the direction I'm looking it from, is going to have attenuation, and also distance adds that attenuation as well. In this context, we talked about like different ways that we could approach adding sound elements to our Wwise objects, and also how to create like an active game object that we can translate into a more how do you call it? A more functional, variable, flexible tool that we can add to other objects. Okay, great. So the first thing that we're going to do in Wwise is going to be adding the footstep effects that we're going to be working in. For that, we are going to utilize certain specific sounds from the from the audio files that we already had. So let me do this in ending, because that may be a little easier. Okay, so here we have our Wwise project in the same state that it was earlier. From here we have, of course, our play and stop event from our audio file, and we have our digital audio horror sound that we are having. Into our container default work unit, we are now going to add a series of footsteps. The way that I'm going to do that is that I'm going to go for my GDC audio files, and we're going to find some footstep sounds that we can utilize. As we talked in class, there are multiple ways that you can reference these footsteps. But if we go into, let me make this window a little smaller. Probably a little too small. If we go into our folder and we look for footsteps, let's look for steps. We're going to grab this folder that contains 4 sounds that we're going to be using for our footsteps, and we're going to drag and drop that folder into our default work unit. That is going to allow us to have a virtual folder, and within that virtual folder, all 4 of our footstep sounds. Now, the important thing to note here is that a virtual folder works just like a folder. It's going to be a place in which all of our folders are, all of our files are contained. But we don't need each of these footsteps to be played separately. The objective is going to be for them to be variations on the same action, which is taking a step. Therefore, instead of containing these 4 files into a virtual folder, we need to store them into a random container. That random container is going to allow us to create an event, and that event is going to play randomly between all of these 4 selections. Let's leave it at that and import that. We'll let them import, and now we have our folder. Let's rename it. I'm going to change the name from the name of the folder that I already had to footsteps dirt, because that's what they are. Let's listen to them for a bit. So if I go, if I'm just here in the footsteps place and I click on the spacebar, we'll see here that in the transport control we have footsteps dirt, and it is playing one of the 4 at random. So immediately, one thing that stands out to me by listening to them is that this 4th one is not necessarily, it doesn't feel like the same material as the other ones, but these sounds separate from all the other ones. Like the texture of the footsteps is different. So we're gonna remove that sound. Oh, oops. Yeah. The second thing that stands out to me is that these footsteps are like all over the place in reference to timing. As we mentioned in class, it is really important for the timing of our footsteps to be fairly close to the actual action so that we don't have problems with timing and synchronization. So we're going to make those footsteps a lot more immediate. This one is relatively fine. Let's just put it closer to the action. Yeah, let's make a little bit of an easing out, and let's make it a lot shorter, because honestly, that's what matters to me at this moment. Oh yeah, and we are gonna just place the other one closer to that same type of experience, so that they once again feel closer to one another. Do something like this. Yeah, so we have, and now this one also. Let's put it a little bit closer. What do we have here? It's a little bit more texture, but I'm gonna leave it here. A little forward. Okay, let's cut the tail, a fairly large tail. I'm gonna leave some more of that tail. Yeah, a little shorter, not perfect, but we can work with that. Okay. Perfect. Now, the next thing is that we're going to go into the configuration. As we mentioned before, well, in class, it is important for these 3 sounds not to be explosive, right? That every time that we listen to a repetition, our brain notices. So the way that we solve that in Wwise is through randomization. So we click on our selection of all of the different parameters that we can try to change. We can see that inside of the random container configuration, there are a bunch of extra things that we have and we can try to edit around with. In our case, we are going to play around with the pitch. With the pitch of, like, randomize a little bit the pitch. Once again, there are multiple things that you could be randomizing in each of our values. For example, once again, in our case, it's going to be the pitch, but you could also change a low pass filter value and then change that. There's also delays that you can apply to them, and maybe we're going to play around with that for a little bit. To randomize that, we are going to select here as our randomization. You see here that there is like extra values that we have. We are going to double click on that and enable a randomization, and it's going to give us an offset selection, a minimum and a maximum value that we can play around with. These values are measured in cents. Cents are a physical value measured from 0 to 100, which is the difference between basically one frequency and the next. In our case, we're going to have a minimum of offset of let's say the maximum of offset is something like 0 to 300 cents, something like that. We can check how that sounds. So there is some variation. A thing that you can do is just make it like really deep and see how that changes. Let's put it at like 4800, and then you'll see that there's like a lot of difference in between these things. So we make it like kind of small, as we mentioned before. Let's say 2 actually. This can be a minimum value, right? Yeah, as we mentioned before, we need to make it close enough that it will still sound like the same material and the same texture that we're utilizing, but far away enough that they are different. They feel like different steps. Okay, fantastic. So now that I have everything here randomized, the next thing that we need to do is to create an event. It's the same process. We have our audio source, which is going to be these footsteps dirt containment. I'm gonna right click here, and I'm going to create a new event. It's gonna be a new play event. And that new play event is going to be play footsteps dirt. That's perfectly fine. We're going to change our layouts into the soundbank layout, and I'm going to grab my play footsteps event. I'm going to drag it into my soundbank. You will see that it is added here. I generate the checked files. Everything appears to be in order. Okay. Now, the next thing to do would be to check how this sounds inside of the engine. So in Unreal, we need to try to see how to implement that file. So first things first, let's go to our Wwise browser. If we have our event in our default work unit, we're going to see it here. Everything is synchronized, but this asset still has the UA asset missing. It is important then that we reconcile that file, reconcile the Unreal asset, and now the UA asset is up to date. It's great. So now that we have that file, let's go back to the details. How do we implement footsteps? Well, in Unreal, it's relatively easy because we are doing, well, our character controller is moving around its own configuration, and that configuration already contains a lot of extra information that is going to be valuable for us. I could look for the character landscape through here. I go to like player. Just see that here's the player start, and player start is the location of the object, but the actual character controller is located in our first person content folder. So here's the level, the colorway, and we have blueprints, and then blueprints here we have the first person character, the first person game mode, and the first person player controller. I am going to look for the first person player controller, double click it as a blueprint. And this is not the object. It was the other one. Let's go back. First person character. There we go. Hello. So a couple of things. First things first, really interesting. We see the viewport. In the viewport, we can see what objects are containing of the file. You see the space, and then that is connected to a camera, and then the camera view is the thing that is connected to them. Interestingly enough, it looks like it's a character that has like one set of legs but two torsos. I don't know what that's about, but that's more or less how this appears. We also have the touch inputs of the character controller, which are how these are going to, like how events in a controller would be creating extra transitions for them, and we can get to know how like the primary thumbstick changes the axis position in a move space. We are going to do something similar. So inside of this blueprint, we're going to add a new interaction with that movement object. Now, the reason why we can do all of this is because the Unreal character controller, at least the one that we're using, no. at least that we want to use it, has this character movement object that already contains a lot of the options, a lot of the information that we're going to be needing for this operation. If you can see specifically here on our character movement walking, we have the step height, we have the max speed for walking, we have the max speed when it is crouched. We also have the values for jumping when falling, component tricks, gravity. All of these are values that that Unreal as an engine is already registering. So our job then is only to detect that information. How do we do that? Is utilizing something similar to these type of functions that are detecting when something is happening. So we are going to look for the move category of unsanctioned movements. AI move is detecting. Let me show it back. So AI move is detecting a lot of the information that is happening every time that the character is moving. First thing that we're gonna do to see if this works, first of all, we can make it big, and you can see that this can trigger on trigger. So whenever the character moves, when it starts, when it is ongoing, when it is cancelled, when it is completed, all of these can send you different triggers, and these events can be utilized for multiple things. In our case right now, we're just going to utilize the trigger because we care if the character is moving, at least for the footstep operation. To check just at the beginning, let's just create a string object. Actually, is it like a print string? Yeah, there we go. The print string, and we're gonna print the value, let's say moving, as our control. So if the character is moving, we should see the words moving on the screen. I'm gonna compile that, save that, go back to my game, display, and then if I start moving, you can see, stop, you can see the tag start appearing on the left. So great. Our character, every time that our character is moving, we have a signal. Now, next thing that we can do is just replace this string with our post-event configuration. So if I go to trigger event, post-event, we have our AK post. Where am I triggering this? Let's do this because we are doing all of this within the character controller. And what event am I playing? Well, I'm playing the footsteps dirt. Now, you already can figure out what the problem is going to be here. This event is going to be posted every single time that the character starts to move. And this update is not happening every footstep, it's happening every frame that the W key is pressed, every frame that the character is moving. So, in theory, be careful with your ears. When I play this and I start moving, what we're gonna hear is a complete chain of like every frame, a new post event happening. So not ideal, right? But it's working, right? We are generating a sound when the character starts to move. So the first thing that we need to do to detect if this is if this is working will be to try to determine if the previous sound of the footstep is already playing. For that, we're going to create a new variable, and that variable is going to be a boolean. We're going to check a yes or no, and the check is going to be is footstep playing. We're going to set the value of this footstep at the beginning. Let me compile that. The default value is going to be false. The footstep is not playing, and then the idea will be that this post event happens only when footstep is not playing. So if I create a branch, which is going to be our if else statement, let's break this link. Break this link. So we are going to check is footstep playing. So easy. Is footstep playing? If the answer is true, do nothing, and if the answer is false, play the post event. Right? Pretty simple. So if I do that, I compile, I save, I go back to the game. It is still working. Why is it still working? Because it's only playing if it's false, and then nothing's changing. Right, of course. So the next thing to do would be like, hey, sorry. Is footstep playing? If this event is happening, then the answer is yes. So if I connect these two lines and I change the footstep playing to yes, true, it is playing. It means that at the beginning of the check, the time is I'm checking, is footstep playing? The answer is yes or no. At the beginning, it isn't. Then when the post event happens, it is. I'm gonna compile this, and we should only hear one footstep when I start to walk. And then it doesn't matter how much I walk, or if I stop and start working again, it's never gonna happen again because I'm never returning the value to that. So for that, we need to create a new system, something that allows me to wait an extra amount of time before this or after this change happens, so that if I am checking this option, it is not happening again. For that, we are going to create a new or like use a new type of node. That node in this case is going to be a timer. This is called a timer event. Set timer event. Perfect. So the objective of this timer event is going to be to wait a certain amount of time before something else happens. What is going to be that thing happening is going to be the footstep event, so our boolean, going back to false. So I'm going to connect these two notions, and I'm going to wait an amount of time before this gets triggered event. What is my problem? That these two values don't connect to each other, right? So I need to create a custom event that is going to be called, let's say, footstep boolean, whose only job is to trigger back this idea. It's setting the boolean back to false. And this event is going to be triggered when the timer reaches 0. We're going to loop this so that the timer can happen multiple times, and we're only going to track this once per frame. So every time that we arrive to this point, we are going to check, we're going to wait an amount of time, and then that amount of time, after that amount of time passes, we're going to trigger this event to set the next value into motion. Right now we have a timer of 0. We're going to change that to 0.8. We're going to play around with that value in a little bit, but for now, this is our operation. I'm going to save, I'm going to compile. Let's see if this works. In theory, right now, when the motion triggers, I'm going to check if the boolean is true or false. If it is false, which because no sound is playing, I'm going to play the sound, set the boolean value to true, and then wait for an amount of time before I set it back to false, and I can start playing the value again. So let me play the game. And if I start walking, we see that the footsteps start sounding at a distance. Now, what is the problem that you see here? This character is running, and we can see the feet. And we can also accelerate a little bit, I think. The value going up. But the footsteps are too slow. So we need to check that. We need to find a way to synchronize those values with the speed that we're trying to use. For that, we need to attach the rhythm of our controller to the speed of the character. Luckily for us, there is already a get max speed character movement option. From the get character speed, we can return a value, and that value will be our character speed. We can then utilize an operator to change our character speed for like a footstep ratio. In that sense, we are going to create a new variable. This is not going to be a boolean, this is going to be a float. It could be an integer in theory, but we're going to leave it a float. And we're going to name this, let's say, footstep ratio. So our footstep ratio is going to have, let me compile that, a default value of, let's say, 500. What does that mean? It means that divided by whatever the max speed is, a footstep ratio is going to determine how many footsteps the character is taking in reference to the max speed that we have, which is measuring like meters per second. So let's do a couple of operations. Let's go and trigger a print string, and let's check what this value is. We're going to do that. Let's do it here, because this is just going to trigger by itself. So compile. Let's see how much our speed value is. Our value is 600. That value is measured in reopen Unreal. Close this because it's distracting me, and open our character controller back again. If I select our character movement, you'll see that this 600 is connected to this maximum speed, which is 600 centimeters per second or 6 meters per second. With our footstep ratio at 500, it means that we are assuming that of those 600 or like 6 meters that were taken, every 5 of those 6 meters, or like 80% of the time, we're going to be playing sound. That's the ratio that we're trying to divide. So for that, we're going to divide our footstep ratio. Let me delete our string. We're going to divide our footstep ratio and our max speed value. This is going to give us a percentage rate, and this is the value that we're going to utilize for the timing here. In this case, I'm going to just recreate this connection. We're going to have a time in between footsteps of more or less the same one that we had, but also, let's double play that. We have like a 0.8, and if the speed were to change, because the character controller is like sprinting or doing something different, it will go up or down following that speed, because if you're moving faster, the number is going to go lower. That being said, we already want the number to go lower because this is not synchronizing with the timing, right? 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's we're taking like 3 steps in the timing that it takes us to be able to do that. So we need the footstep ratio to be bigger, smaller, smaller, yeah. So we are going to change our footstep ratio to make the foots faster. If we are assuming that we're able to take 3 steps, we need the footstep ratio to be a third of what it is right now. So being 500, that is going to be 500 divided by 3. Like 125? That's correct? Let me open a calculator. 0.5 divided by 3, it's 0.215. So let's do 160, if that works. Maybe a little fast. It's actually pretty good. Oh yeah. If your character controller has a different speed, this would also adapt to that. But I think, in theory, based on the animation, this would happen. Let's see if this would work correctly if we change the animation. That is a good experiment to do. I'm gonna go back to my character controller, and let's change this speed, make it a little bit slower. So 500. I'm trying to synchronize this to the animation. That's the calculus that I was doing, right? Yeah. So because the animation is tied to the speed, we can still see that even if I change the speed and I'm going lower, technically more space in between the values, the animation is still on track, and I can continue tracking movement there. So I'm gonna go back to 600, compile and save. Pretty good. But there you noticed a big problem, right? Footsteps are sounding, but even if I jump, right? The footsteps are still playing even when the character is not touching the ground. So the next thing that we need to do is trying to figure out an option for how to change that. How do we do it? Well, the solution is relatively simple. It's honestly connected to the things that we're already doing, which is utilizing the movement characteristics to be able to change it. I'm gonna delete this string because it's not going to be useful for us anymore. All right. So the way that we fix our issue is really, really simple. We are going to go back into our blueprint, and we're going to look here at the beginning, because there is an extra node that we can use for this configuration, which is going to be checking for the floor. So the value from the character movement that we're going to utilize is a nav movement variable, a float number called isMovingOnGround. This is grabbing the character movement controller and then extracting the movement on ground variable that we have, assuming that the character is moving on ground, and this is going to be a true or false statement. So now the next thing that we need to do is make a branch available. Let's break this link. And that allows us to connect this here, and the condition becomes relatively simple. Is the character moving off ground? Yes. If yes, then we go ahead and continue playing the sounds for the rest of our motion. But if not, then nothing happens. Let's compile and see if that works for us. I'll play, and then what if I jump? Perfect. As long as I'm as long as I'm not on the ground, the sound is not going to play, so it is not playing when I don't need it. Perfect. Now the next thing is, of course, we are lacking a landing sound, so we need to set that up on Wwise and then come back and try it out. Okay, for our landing sounds, this is going to be relatively simple. We are going to grab some of the footsteps that we already have. Let's listen to them. Perfect. Let's say the first two. I think that they will work in sequence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here on my default work unit and create a new virtual folder. This is going to be landing. Landing is going to be where I'm going to store both of my sounds. I'm going to select both of the ones that I have here, and I'm going to copy them. So Control-C and paste them here at the top. I'm doing this so that it is easier for me to have already all of these edits that I have placed in the value. I also made the middle button, the middle sound a little bit higher, placed from 2 dBs up, just so that it's more or less on a similar amplitude as my other footsteps. So I have these two sounds right here, and the next thing that I need to do is create a new event based on those sounds. So I'm gonna, instead of having them, because so far we've added a single event that can play multiple things, or an event that plays one sound, we're gonna here utilize as a new way of utilizing events that allows me to add multiple sounds and then either play them in sequence or play them at the same time. In my case, we're gonna play them together with a little bit of a delay for timing. I'm gonna go to events, and I'm going to let's create a new folder in my default work unit. This is going to be landing. Let's say landing events. That way I can keep it there. And then in landing events, I'm going to create a new event. And that event is going to be landing. Perfect. So the next thing that I need to do is I'm going to go into my audio, and I'm going to grab both of these. Let me go back to the landing space. And both of these I am going to drag on top of it. So landing now, if I play it, should be playing both of these sounds at the same time. To make it a little more noticeable, we are going to add a little bit of a delay to one or the other. This is for us to emphasize that feeling of weight that we mentioned during class. If I fall, I don't fall the same way as I would do if I'm jumping hard and if I'm jumping low. But also the sound of a footstep is different to the sound of a landing when your whole body is applying pressure to the ground. So in that position, I'm going to set up a bit of a delay. Let's make it like very noticeable. Let's make it 0.5. And then when I play the landing, I should be able to hear one sound and then the other one with a little bit of a delay. So you see there's like pa pa. Cool. That's more or less the vibe that we want, but we want it really short together. So instead of making it 0.5, let's make it a 0.2. Let's hear it out. Still, that's a lot better, but it is still too far apart. I can hear both of the steps separated. So let's do like 1.5. Okay. Papan, but still has a better rhythm to it, and one of the sounds is not done when I'm doing the other one. That feels pretty good. So next things, go to the soundbank layout, events, grab my landing event, add it into my main. And then after that has been selected, I'll just generate checked. No problems here. Let's go to the engine. So now in Unreal, the thing that we need to do is find a way of calling that landing value. Lucky for us, Unreal already carries a really native function that we can use, like a specific node that is going to reference that from our character movement. It's going to be event on landed. So when the character lands, we trigger this function, which means that we can trigger the event from here. Now, I have not updated the file, so I'm not going to find my event for falling here. So let's fix that first. Minimize this, go to my Wwise browser, and if we go to the landing events, we see here that we have not yet generated the UA asset. Now it should work. Go back, landing event, and where do I play it? Of course, on self. Fantastic. So that's it. That's all we have to do for the landing sound. Play it. Let's just jump here. There we go. So the next thing that we need to work on is our switch groups. Switch groups are going to be used to change between different configurations of sounds. We're going to assign multiple types of audio sources or multiple, I guess, events to a switch group and then access which of the audio sources is going to be played depending on the conditions that we are giving to the player. In our cases, the ways that we're going to do that is we're going to change based on switch groups, which type of footsteps we're playing for the player. So the first we're going to look at how that works on Wwise, and then we're going to set up a specific area, in which these footsteps are going to sound different. So let's jump into Wwise. And from here, let's take a look at a new set of sounds. I'm going to go back to my sound library, and I'm going to look for a set of I'm gonna look for a set of snow patch footsteps. I'm gonna look for footsteps, and here we're going to find the blue zone snow footsteps. I'm gonna go do the same thing. These are 4 sounds. I'm gonna grab all of them, and I'm gonna drag them into our default work unit. So the same process that we had done before, drag here. I'm gonna do the same thing as we mentioned earlier. We're gonna set a random container that is gonna serve to play all of our sounds one after the other. So let's import those sounds. Or this was because I was already checking them, but you shouldn't be able to see that. Here we have our blue on the snow footsteps. I'm going to change there to footsteps snow. And then from here, if I press play on the random container, we should be able to hear one after the other. So let's try that out. Oops. Here we go. those are all of our sounds, and they're playing on a different side. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut the sound. As you can hear, these are all like fairly deep steps, and I don't want that feeling. It's gonna be like a snow patch, so I'm gonna make the values fairly shallow, and it is in that shallowness that we're gonna take some extra measurements to make them feel shorter, like not that deep. That feels pretty good. One thing that it's a good condition is the idea of like looking at when this line is starting to go down. Tends to be really good for the volume to stay relevant. So let's go to the next one. Let's grab it like over here, something like that. Let's grab it from the peak, and then let's select the tail and make it a little bit longer. That feels too short, maybe a little bit longer. Okay, that feels pretty good. Okay, let's do the next one. That one, same thing. Let's grab it over here. Pretty good. A little bit of fade in, and then reduce the tail. Okay, and the final one. Grab it like from here. Okay, let's try it again. They all seem to be pretty good. The next thing that I noticed is that they're a lot louder than our footsteps for dirt. They are clipping a little bit, so I'm gonna reduce, let's say, 6 dBs. It was too much. Let's do 4. No, actually, I was right the first time. Let's do 7 actually. There. Yeah, they're still louder, but they are not as notoriously louder as they used to be. So I'm gonna save that. And the next thing here would be to, of course, create a play event based on this if we were just doing it the same way. We're not. We're going to make a little bit of a smaller difference. The thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my footsteps space, and I'm going to, I will create, instead of having a footsteps dirt and a footsteps no, I'm just going to create a footsteps event, and Wwise on itself is going to determine if I'm playing the footsteps dirt or the footsteps no based on a switch group. So how am I gonna configure a switch group? I'm gonna go here into my share sets, and you'll see here that we have, sorry, not into my share sets, into my game sinks. And you'll see here in my game sinks that I'm storing switches, states, game parameters, and triggers. We're gonna touch each of these in as we move forward with the class, starting with the switches. If you select the default work unit, I can go into a new child and create a switch group. In here, this is going to be the footsteps switch. And so far, I only have 2 different type of switches that I'm going to assign. Switch 1 is going to be dirt, which is the main material that we're going to be using most of the time. And then the second one is going to be snow. The objective here is that we're going to create a system that most of the time is in dirt, but if the switch changes from one to the other, it goes into snow. After the footstep switch is already made, we need to push that as part of the behavior. So how do we do that? I'm going to go back into audio, and I'm going to create a new folder. That folder is going to be a switch container. A switch container allows us to create or assign the contents of that folder to mold or the switches that are available inside of a switch group. In our case, this is just going to be named footsteps. And then in footsteps, I'm going to assign snow and dirt. Both of them are then present here as virtual, not virtual folders, random containers. Now the next thing is in footsteps, I'm going to go into my switch container by clicking here in all, and I'm going to assign a switch group. First of all, I click here, and I'm going to assign my footstep switch as my main footstep. Now, next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to change what the default switch is in my switch container configuration. I'm going to click here on the little ball, and that should show me or allow me to change it. Why isn't it letting me? Oh, I think that I had selected one of the containers. So like these two are not going to have container values, but the switch container, I'm going to change the default state to dirt. Dirt is going to be what is going to be most of the time, and I'm going to change from dirt into something else. Perfect. So now that those values are there, the last thing that I need to do, and this is very important, you cannot forget this, is assign what part of the content is going to be part of which switch. So you see here that my switch container has two values, dirt and snow. I gotta drag my folder, the footsteps dirt, into dirt, and from footsteps snow, into snow. Perfect. That's it. Now that this is assigned, I need to make sure that this is working. How do I do that? Well, here at the bottom, I have my transport control. You'll probably see it here that it is displaying states. I'm going to go from states to switches, which is the second selection right here at the bottom left. And when I press play on footsteps, I should only hear the dirt footsteps. But if I select the footstep switch and I change it from dirt to snow, we can hear snow now. Perfect. Now the last thing that I need to do is continue the process. From footsteps, I'm going to create an event. I'm going to create a play event. This play event is just going to be play footsteps. I'm going to assign play footsteps to the footsteps folder, and then I'm going to delete my play footsteps dirt event. Now lastly, I'm going to go into my soundbank layout, grab play footsteps and add it to my soundbank. And then I'm going to delete the play footsteps dirt because it's no longer there. I'm going to generate checked. And now we should be able to go into our engine and create a patch that we can use to change these footsteps. When we jump into Unreal, there are a couple of things that are immediately obvious. The first is we have some problems here in our Wwise browser. I'm going to go ahead into our play footsteps and I'm going to click to reconcile these values. Play footsteps is now there. The second thing is that you'll see here that play footsteps is still being called and there is a UA asset that is present. If I press here in reconcile, it will give me a problem and tell me that they can't do that because it is being played somewhere else. Because, of course, if you go into our character controller, you'll see here that the event that we're calling is still play footsteps dirt. I'm going to change this to play footsteps, compile it and save it. And now we should be able to recompile this or delete it, and it shouldn't be an issue. Oh, I deleted something different. So let me update this, select it back again. I'll try to compile. If this doesn't allow you to delete the file, the other way that you could do it is just right click, find it in the content browser and do the selection footsteps dirt. I'm going to try to delete it. If this doesn't tell you that it is being referenced somewhere else, that means that you can delete it. So I'm just going to click on delete. Perfect. So now we have the footstep sounds and they should work the same way that they were doing. Perfect. So I need to create a snow patch. Let me go over here a little bit farther. And inside of our Wwise tutorial objects folder, let me get back into details. I'm going to create a new object. I'm going to go place actors and create a plane. So I'm going to click plane. And the plane is going to be, let's say, over here. Okay. So first things first, I'm gonna raise it a little bit, let's say 10, so that it is close to the ground, but not necessarily in the ground. Then I'm gonna round out these numbers a little bit, so that, oh, it is actually really good on the square. Yeah, so it is kind of centered. The last thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. So let's make it. Let's do a 10 by 10 square. Really neat. It is kind of in the middle of a bunch of things, so let me move it around a little bit. What is a good place? Let's put it like here and like here. I'm starting to think that 10 is too much, so I'm gonna make it like 5 by 5. Yeah, that feels good. That feels appropriate. Look it there and there. So here we have our 5 by 5 snow patch. The other thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into my contents, and in level prototyping here are a bunch of materials. I will should grab one of these. Let's do the white one, really similar to the one that it has, just to change the color a little bit. You could put like snow materials there, it's fine. Next thing that I need, well, I'm gonna go and grab this plane, I'm gonna put it in my Wwise tutorial object. And let's rename it into Snow Patch. Next thing that we're gonna do is we need a trigger. I'm gonna go into a trigger box, put it there. Let's drag it into our Snow Patch. Perfect. So we got that. And then we need to make these the same size as our snow patch. So first of all, let's keep this at 1 so that it feels correct. And then let's make it, we said that it was a 5 by 5, so it's like 50 centimeters, 50 centimeters, and that's 50 centimeters. Actually, let's make these 100. And then let's raise it by 100, so that it is a little higher than the ground. The other thing that I need to do is I'm gonna reset this so that in position it is correct. Is that good enough? I could make it taller. Let's make these like 250 and this like 125. That's correct. I'm a little lower, so is it the full 250? 240. In 240, it is touching the ground. Okay, let's just leave it the way that we had it. 190. Because in theory, as long as the character is within this measurement, it shouldn't matter. But there is a chance that like we would like jump out of it. I think that this is fine. We're just gonna walk into the area regardless, and the whole object is going to be jumping in here. Cool. So we have our trigger box. Let's rename that to Snow Trigger. Now, once again, there are 2 different ways that we can do that. We're going to integrate this through a script, to a blueprint. That blueprint could be a specific blueprint made for this snow patch that I can create by making a Unreal object, converting the snow patch fully into a blueprint object. But the other alternative is just to create a blueprint that I can then add to multiple instances. I think that because this is like a surface thing, what I'm gonna do is create a new blueprint. So I'm gonna right click here and create a new blueprint class. This is going to be, let's keep it as an actor blueprint. And this is going to be switch controller. Yeah, that's very good. So the switch controller is going to be a blueprint class that does something really, really simple. It's going to check if a character enters into a trigger and then look for a switch variable that can be used for this type of event. How are we gonna do it? I'm gonna right click here. I'm gonna find a switch trigger. What's the name? Let's look it as AK switch. Let's go up or not. There, set switch. If we go here, we're not gonna see them because I haven't updated the Wwise browser. Let's look in our default switches, and we have them here. Let's remake them. reconcile them to create a UA asset. I will go back here, we have them both. So we know that by default it is on set. So what we need to do is once again create a reference inside of our variables for a trigger box. That trigger box is going to be an no, sorry, it's not an EK trigger, it's a trigger box. That trigger box is going to be an object reference, and we create something on trigger enter. On actor begin overlap, we set the switch to snow. That happens the moment that we start. And we need to remember, contrary to the other one, that this is going to set it on the actor. This is important because we are playing that, we are making the trigger in reference to the motion of the actor. If we don't connect this, it's not going to change. Perfect. So we make this public, and now the reality is going to be, as long as something enters into this, we're going to change the footsteps. There is one more thing I think it's worth mentioning, which is that if we were doing this in the blueprint, well, okay, let's just leave it like this. So let's minimize this. I can go to my content drawer, select my snow patch. In my snow patch, I'm going to drag my switch controller into my snow patch, select that switch controller, and look for a... Sorry for that. Look for my trigger variables. It's not easily findable. Let's look for switch trigger. Is going to be the name of our trigger area. Now I'm gonna go back to my snow patch, and in the switch controller, I should have the possibility of selecting. Sorry, I made a bit of an error there. I'm gonna go back to my switch controller. I'm gonna drag it into the scene, and then I'm gonna grab it back and put it into my snow patch. I need to do this because if I merge it the way that I did it, it's not going to select the switch controller as a different object, and therefore I will not have the trigger. So let's go back to the switch controller. I'm gonna reset the position so that I have it zeroed out where the space is. Just make it a little bit taller, so let's put it at like 20 or something like that. Cool. And then in the switch controller, I'm going to select a switch trigger. Is going to be the snow trigger, which is part of the same object. And now in theory, that should be good enough. Let's play this. We have our dirt sounds, and then it is not working. Why isn't it working? Double check our math. We have our other actor checking into this position. And then the switch is not changing into anything. Oops. Leave it into snow. Back. Let's do it again. Perfect. Oh, there's the second problem. Now that the switch has changed, there's nothing changing it back. So the switch is forever into the snow configuration. So the next thing that we need to do is go back into our script, select again our switch trigger, and change it to on actor end overlap. We're just going to change this position back, set switch, and then in here we're going to change it back to dirt. Do this selection one more time, compile, and then I should be able to go here. Perfect. Excellent. So this is the end of that portion, but there is one more thing that I wanted to signal in the reference to the thing before we continue, which is that one of the benefits of creating a new actor is that you could later utilize that switch value into something different. Sorry, this script to change between multiple switches. So I'm going to create one more variable. I'm going to look for a switch AK switch value, and I'm going to get that object reference. And then I'm going to rename this variable. You are just going to be switch value. I press enter, and I'm gonna get that switch value, and it is that switch value that I'm gonna feed into both of my set switches. I'm gonna compile this, make this public, very important, compile and save. And now out here, I'm gonna go back into my switch controller, and I'm going to change my switch value to snow. I just realized that I made a huge mistake, which is the idea of like, I need to create a new a new switch value there. And then let's make it switch on and off. So this is going to be off, and this is going to be switch on. How are they going to work? So switch on is the one that is going to be activated when I want the switch to start, and switch off is going to be the value that gets when the trigger ends and we stop and we start checking for it. So we enter into the area, switch on, we get out of the area, switch off. In our cases, after we compile and save, switch on is going to be snow and switch off is going to be dirt, right? Because it is the default value that we have. Let's see if this works again. And perfect. Now, why is this useful? Because then I can just select the switch controller and put it back into another object and utilize a different trigger area, and it's going to do a similar process than what we did before. You can also change what the switch on is and what the switch off is, and it makes it a little bit more modular for you to be able to adapt. Now, the last little problem that we have here is that we can hear the changing footsteps for snow, but if I jump, we still listen to the footsteps, and that's because I haven't assigned a footstep sound for snow. So let's do that really quick. Let's jump into Wwise and make it into a new sound that we can utilize. All right. So the configuration of our landing sound is going to be a little bit different in the sense that we could do the exact same thing that we're doing, create a new folder for the play and create a landing for dirt and a landing for snow and change it in the same configuration of the changes. But right now we already have a landing event that is doing the alternated in between the two, and we can just do the transition for 1, 2, and this is another technique that we could use to try to measure that. So we're gonna go jump back into Wwise, and from here, let's go to the designer layout. We're gonna do the same thing in the sense that we have our landing, which is 2 steps. I'm going to create 2 new folders that are going to be each of them their own specific switch containers. So this first switch container is going to be step 1, and the second switch container is going to be a step 2. So how is it going to work? Step 1 is going to change between the first step and the second step. The first step in dirt and the first step in snow, and the same thing with the second one. So step 1 is going to contain the first step, and step 2 is going to contain the second step. Pretty good. Now the next thing would be to assign a second step for that. We're going to listen to our steps and see which 2 would work pretty good together. We have that one, and then that one. I think 3 and 4 sound pretty good, so I'm gonna select both of them, copy them, and then go back to our landing sound. I'm gonna paste them. Let's grab the first one and grab it into step 1, and the second one into step 2. Pretty good. Now I have them assigned. I'm gonna go into step 1 and do the same process, selecting the footstep switch, add them back again. Our default value is going to be dirt. I'm gonna do the same thing with the second one, footstep switch. Select again, add the default value. The default value is dirt. And then the next thing is, of course, from step 1, adding this value into dirt and this value into snow. And same thing here at the bottom. This is snow, and this is dirt. Pretty good. After the content editor had been made and the default has already been adjusted, we can go to our events, go to play, no footsteps, but landing events, play landing, and we can delete these two files. And now we need to add the footstep event that is going to be playing these two steps. Let me select both of them and then go into our landing event and drag and drop them here. And we have them pretty much in the same way, which depending on what I have selected, they're going to be playing together. Oh, this is the footstep switch. I haven't checked actually. Let's go. Oh, we are gonna apply a delay one more time. So let's go to our second sound that we have added to our steps, and we will change the delay of it a little bit. Let's make it 0.12 was it that I had with the other one, right? So after the delay had been applied, you can hear them both together. Let's check back the dirt. It's falling pretty good. Let's go back to snow. Don't think that there is still clipping, so let me go back into the audio. Oh, of course, because I hadn't changed the volume for those two. So I'm gonna select both of them. And how much was it that I reduced? In 7 dB. Let's do that again. Blue zone, -7. I there selected both of the elements and then changed one of the values. If that value is changing both of them at the same time while they are selected, they will affect both of them at the same time. So right now they are +4. If I select one, it's +4. The other one is still changed. So selecting both, -7. Then that should change both of them. No? Okay. Cool. Now that should be working. There is one more thing that I just realized that I didn't do, and is that the footsteps now doesn't have a randomization on the voice pitch. I forgot to do that for this, so I'm gonna make them available and then change that one more time. Let's make them, -200 to, let's say, 300. That's the way the offset is going to feel. Good. And I think that I will be doing the same, but a lot closer in the steps 1 and 2. So let me select both of them and see if it works now. Voice pitch, make it enabled. Let's do -100 and let's do 100. Right. Let's close that. Let's see if it worked with both. No, it didn't. Voice pitch, enable, -100, 100. Cool. Right. Now let's check back our landing event. It's working as intended, and we are not changing any part of our landing sound. So if I just go back into the engine, it should work perfectly fine after I have, of course, generated my soundbox. Right, let's check it out. Right, so let's check into Unreal. We're gonna play the game one more time. We start jumping and we hear our landing sounds on dirt. If I walk to my snow patch and I jump on it, I should be able to hear the landing sound of the snow. There we go. Excellent. And then back. Perfect. Both of these systems are now then connected to our switch groups, and they are going to be changing accordingly to what we need. And we have this adaptive system that we can use to change other types of switches attached to other sounds in other parts of our project. That's all that we have for this week. I hope that this was informative. And as always, if you have any questions, make sure to send me an email, schedule office hours, and yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you in class.